gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car. I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, Shadow Realm? It's a Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
The 24-year-old female officer had just left work when she was shot to death early this morning in the Avalon Park neighborhood. Fox 32's Nate Rogers has been following this tragic story all day. It is here with the latest. Nate?
A devastating, heartbreaking tragedy indeed. Right now, Mayor Lightfoot says the family is requesting privacy at this time. Chicago police not releasing a lot of details or specifics just yet. We do know that detectives are working to learn if the victim was targeted or if this was a random robbery. Loved ones grief-stricken and heartbroken outside UFC hospital. One of Chicago's bravest killed right in front of her own home.
81st in Blackstone, we got a person shot. It's an off-duty PO. Get an ambulance here now.
Wow. So you have an off-duty officer deleted in Chicago, and this is truly becoming the norm. All right. I've done multiple stories on Chicago police officers being or becoming the victims, and especially female officers. These super gremlins are on demon time.
Police responded to a shot spotter alert. Multiple gunshots were heard. 24-year-old Areanah Preston was found laying in the front yard. Sources say her service weapon and badge were missing.
The officer picked our officer up, put him in the back of a squad car, and immediately brought to University of Chicago Hospital, where she succumbed to her wounds early this morning. It
happened here at 81st and Blackstone just before 1:45 a.m. Interim Police Superintendent Eric Carter says Preston had just finished her work shift.
Right now, we ask that you keep the officer and her family in your prayers.
Preston worked for the department for 3 years. Loyola University confirming she was on track to graduate May 13th with a master's of jurisprudence from the School of Law. Mayor Lightfoot speaking with family members earlier in the day, saying their lives are shattered.
So my question is, for one, it very much looks like this was targeted. Could she have been dealing with a super gremlin romantically and it turned bad? Man, I hate it for this sister because she was educated, strong, intelligent, doing her thing, but still got caught up by the violence in the community. And I've told you guys before, women, children, doesn't matter. These super gremlins are on demon time.
Got the call this morning. I wasn't just a mayor. I was a mom. And thinking about what the parents of this young officer would be feeling today.
Dozens of Chicago police joined the processional as Preston's body was taken from UFC to the medical examiner's office. Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson in a statement saying he's, quote, outraged and devastated by this horrific violence against a public servant and will do everything to support the family and CPD during this traumatic time. And Preston was assigned here to CPD's 5th district, described by many of her colleagues as well liked. Chicago police telling us no suspects are in custody at this time. In Pullman, I'm Nate Rogers, Fox 32 Chicago.
Chicago police still investigating the shooting. Death of one of their own. Off-duty Chicago police officer Areanah Preston. She was just 24 years old and set to get her master's degree from Loyola University next week. CBS 2's Asal Rizai, live from Chicago Police Headquarters with more on what we've learned about this young officer. Asal.
Yeah, Suzanne, good morning. It's been an emotional time not only for the Chicago Police Department, but as you can imagine, for the family of Officer Preston and for her neighbors who are shocked that she was shot right in front of her own home. Now, Officer Preston, 24 years old, as you mentioned, was with the Chicago Police Force for 3 years. She was on her way home from her shift in the 5th District yesterday morning, just before 2 a.m. when she was shot. Responding officers quickly getting her into a police car into the hospital.
Man, I mean, Chicago's on fire right now. It's been on fire for a long time, of course, but there is just no end to this kind of stuff. I mean, years of doing this, nothing changing, and the citizens of Chicago continue to vote in politicians who don't really or aren't really seeking to get the job done. They're just seeking to, you know, fill their pockets and get reelected.
Where she later died from her injuries. Even more devastating to report, she was set to graduate from Loyola University School of Law next Saturday. Neighbors we spoke to, especially those who knew her, tell us she was a dedicated officer and are still processing her loss.
I know something, I tell her. And if she knows something, she's telling me. So that's the way we work it out.
Now, so far, no arrests have been made as police continue their investigation and look for the person or people responsible. They say so far they don't have any information on a possible motive. I'm live from CPD headquarters. Asal Rezai, CBS 2 News.
Thanks so much, Asal.
Overnight, an off-duty Chicago police officer was shot and killed. Other officers found her wounded at 81st and South Blackstone in Avalon Park around 1:42 this morning. They grabbed her, put her in the back of a squad car, rushed her to the hospital where she died.
And here's my thing. This isn't gonna make national news. This is a strong, independent, black female police officer. I mean, it's like, you know, we talk about protecting black women. Where are the black women who are going to speak up about this? Because all they're going to do is get in my comments and, you know, make ad hominems. All right. Saying Jen Quavius goes the other way, which we all know is not true. OK, but this is how these sisters shame brothers like me who are shedding a light on the carnage that's happening in the community, but specifically to black women. And I think black women are the most affected, right, by the violence in the community. But then you have some of these women who are also involved and they don't want to see an end to it because, you know, having their little super gremlins on a leash, a lot of these dudes who, I mean, even when we talk about the FBG Duck situation, like, a lot of these women are calling shots. You know, a lot of these women know that their children are out here in these streets and they're saying, hey, baby, do it. Y'all seen Power, the one with Tyreek and the woman Mary J. Blige in that show. So, I mean, that's a real thing. And some of these mothers are involved and they're telling their sons it's okay to get they lick back and da-da-da-da, and if they do this to you, you go back and do it to them, as if we're on some type of playground at elementary school. But this is real life and these dudes are using sticks. And I'm not saying that this is her situation. It looks like she pretty much stayed out of trouble, but may have said something to the wrong super gremlin. Okay, they waiting on her, and when she gets off of work, they already know that she's police, and man, it's just horrible. Okay, but that's the mentality. That's the mentality, and you're not gonna see any sisters really speaking up about this. I mean, I feel like I might be one of the only guys who is really gonna spend time on this story, and that's sad. Okay, but then they're gonna say that I don't care about black women, I hate black women, and I hate my mom and my family members and the females in my life. But honestly, I'm genuinely trying to make you aware of this stuff because y'all are the ones who are holding the keys to the gate at this point in the community.
Her identity has not been released. There are no details on what led up to that shooting. Mayor Lori Lightfoot said that she spoke with the officer's family at the hospital.
I won't speak for the mother, but I can tell you that she poured everything that she could into her child. No mother wants to wake up to the tragic news that their child is dead.
And see, this mother, she did a good job. And the thing is, when these single mothers are raising women, a lot of times the women turn out better than the sons. So this woman, she did a good job raising her daughter, and her daughter still ends up being a victim to these super gremlins on Demon Time.
And dead to something as awful and tragic as gunfire. Goes without saying, but I've directed the superintendent to spare no expense to make sure that we find the people responsible for this and bring them to justice.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot said the officer was young. The family is asking for privacy.
Yo, what's good, BGZM News 17 family? I'm at the corner of Jesse Jackson and Marcus Garvey, and I got some bad news for you. As you can see, I lost my job. I'm out here living in cardboard boxes outside of boarded up vacant homes. YouTube said I'm done getting money out here in these streets. They even took my funky ass suit. So anything right now would help. So go ahead and hit that Cash App, hit that PayPal, hit that GoFundMe. Hell, cop the merch. Or if you want to make the long-term commitment to the Jinquavius Jackson Fund, join the Patreon so that I can continue to put out top-notch content each and every day. Also, check out the Rumble, where there is absolutely no censorship. Link in the description box below.
Hey, yo, ain't that nigga Jinquavius? Yo, I recognize.
No, that's not me no more.
Hey, yo, run your pocket.
Y'all killing me with this shit.
Do the opposite of Antonio Brown and take
What
all your
more do you want from me?
Well, Karen, even though the purple and black bunting has not been placed over the entrance to the 5th District Police Station, officers here continue to be left reeling by the loss of one of their own after one of their fellow officers is killed. Grief-stricken relatives gathered on the Southside block where off-duty Chicago police officer Areanah Preston was gunned down just steps from the Avalon Park home she shared with her family.
And so it's kind of surprised that, this occurred to, in this neighborhood.
Officials say the 24-year-old officer, who had only been on the job 3 years, was shot as she returned home after finishing her shift at the CPD's 5th District. It happened around 1:45 in the morning in the 8100 block of South Blackstone Avenue.
10-1, it's an off-duty PO.
Video from a neighbor's doorbell camera shows first responders rushing to the scene. According to sources, she had been shot multiple times.
Well, it's not looking good. Get an ambulance here now.
It's still unclear what led to the shooting or if the officer's service weapon was fired or recovered. The officer was rushed to the University of Chicago hospital, but doctors couldn't save her. Fellow officers gathered at the hospital as a show of support for a procession to the medical examiner's office earlier today. An emotional Mayor Lori Lightfoot spoke with the officer's family this morning.
I won't speak for the mother, but I can tell you that she poured everything that she could into her child.
Interim Police Superintendent Eric Carter says his daughter attended high school with the young officer and that his wife coached their cheerleading team, adding that no resource will be spared to find whoever is responsible for the officer's death.
We ask that you keep the officer and her family in your prayers, as well as the men and women of the Chicago Police Department.
In a state.
Yeah, man, and these women got to be real careful about who they dealing with in the community, because I'm not saying that she was dating a super grandma. I hope to God that she was not, but it is a possibility. It could be a domestic situation. It's definitely not random. It seems targeted, but it also could be, she was telling some punk kid off in her, on the street or whatever, or, you know, maybe she pulled somebody over. I don't know, but definitely nothing that warrants what happened to her. But what I will say though, if you are trying to deal with what I call a thug maxed alpha simp, I've coined this term. If anybody else says it, you know they got it from me. A thug maxed alpha simp, okay? A guy who a lot of these women are looking to date in the community. Guys who aren't pronouncing their words and aren't wearing belts. And if they are wearing belts, they're still wearing them, you know, below their behind. You know, these guys, they're not going to be good to you, you know? And when things end, it's going to end tragically because these guys don't know how to let go. So I hope this is not the case at all. Okay, I hope this isn't a love interest type thing. She would have been better off with a Malcolm, like I call him. A Malcolm is a mildly attractive, lucrative, communicative, operational, likable man. And these guys are present in the community, but you have to wean that thirst of the thug maxed alpha simps in order to be attractive to the Malcolms.
Statement, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson called the shooting a profound tragedy, adding in part, "My heart breaks for the family of the young officer who was murdered early this morning. I'm outraged and devastated by the horrific violence against a public servant." This afternoon, those who knew the officer say she was a go-getter.
I know the young lady, though, because I know she graduated. I remember them having all the stuff on the outside when she graduated. Rolling past, speaking. Let's see, man.
Like I said, the worst of us taking out the best of us. And, I mean, this sister says she knew her, but she don't really have nothing to say.
It's just crazy, though.
Just crazy, though.
Now, there's been a steady flow of some off-duty Chicago police officers coming here to show their support for the officers who actually work out of this station. We've even seen some community members coming here to give their condolences as well as to pray with officers, letting them know that they have their support. Meanwhile, the investigation into the shooting continues.
Nearly 48 hours since Officer Areanah Preston was shot in front of her home in Avalon Park, Chicago police cars remain on watch. It happened as Officer Preston was getting home from her shift in the 5th District just before 2 a.m. on Saturday morning. Her neighbor and family friend Diane Wade heard the gunshots that would end up taking Preston's life.
Loud gunshots, and I didn't think too much of it, so I went to bed, and then I woke up again because I heard a lot of traffic on the block, and it was a lot of sirens and blue lights and everything.
Part of that commotion, officers responding to one of their own, putting Preston in the back of a squad car and taking her to the hospital where she later died. Wade still shocked this happened here, an area she says hardly ever sees any violent crime.
This is the first time that something big like this has ever happened.
She tells me her Ring camera didn't catch anything, but says police confiscated surveillance video from both her neighbors' cameras. While Chicago police are not confirming what led up to her murder, the Fraternal Order of Police posted this reaction on their Facebook page, adding, though off-duty, Officer Areanah Preston was killed while trying to defend herself from armed individuals in an apparent robbery.
So, I mean, I guess just a random robbery. That happens too. It's not far-fetched in the community. Well, you know, thank goodness it wasn't a domestic situation, but it was definitely targeted. They were probably just trying to jack her car, and she retaliated, and damn, man, these super gremlins are on demon time.
She died taking police action. Friends and family hoping for justice.
I'm just hoping that whoever has done this will please come forward so that the family can get some rest and some closure to this.
Community activist Jamal Green taking to Instagram.
Man, it's just not enough, man. It's not enough energy from the sisters. It's not enough. There's got to be anger behind this kind of stuff, man. Wow. I just hope the family can get closure and justice. Yo, man, we need to be turned up about this stuff.
I'm offering a $2,000 reward to anyone who has information leading to an arrest. Still a lot of unanswered questions remain. Chicago police not yet confirming any possible motives or any arrests at this time. Reporting from Chicago Police Headquarters, Asal Razai, CBS 2 News.
Officer Preston and other fallen Chicago police officers were remembered today at the 91st Annual St. Jude Police League March and Memorial Service. The march and service honored the officers and their families this morning. They gathered in Gold Star Memorial Park on the museum campus near McFetridge Drive.
A moment of reflection for a fallen officer.
I would like for us to pause for a moment of silence to honor Officer Areanah Preston, who was tragically taken from us yesterday.
Even as hundreds of Chicago police officers marched this morning in remembrance of all the men and women in blue who have lost their lives in service to this city, CPD continues to mourn and investigate the circumstances that led to the loss of Officer Areanah Preston. The 24-year-old was shot and killed in her front lawn as she returned home from work early Saturday morning. A 3-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department, Preston was assigned to District 5. It was a job she until recently balanced with her graduate studies at Loyola University, from where she was set to receive her diploma next week. But it was, according to an interview she gave to her school newspaper as an undergrad at ISU, a 2-week school trip to various Holocaust sites in Germany and Poland in 2019 that cemented her desire to enter the police academy. I know a big thing for our trip was finding voices for those who didn't have a voice. When I got back, I wanted to be an officer. I felt like I could be the person to fight for justice.
Like I said, another example of the worst of us taking out the best of us. Got to do better as a community. Got to speak up about this type of stuff. There's got to be anger coming particularly or specifically from black women. The bulk of the anger needs to come from black women, in my opinion, because if black men like myself talk about this kind of stuff, honestly, you know, we're getting dogged out here, man. In the comments section, they're, you know, dismantling our character and our loyalty to the community. But the problem is the disloyalty comes when you take another person's life, especially within your own community. So it's time for sisters to get loud about this stuff. I've been loud about it. Okay, when I call it out, from male or female, I call it out, and I call it straight. I call it fair. And you know, we're just not loud enough about this. Okay, them stop the violence rallies with 2 or 3 brothers and sisters and then 50 white people, it's just not hitting no more. Okay, it's gonna take us to solve this issue, and I fear that we're not gonna be able to do what needs to be done.
And while the motive and circumstances behind this shooting remain under investigation, Mayor Lori Lightfoot yesterday saying the city will spare no effort to find the person or persons responsible for Officer Preston's death.
Gang violence and other kind of violence.
Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.